Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. I'm your host, Robert Smith, along with my co host, Adam Stellman. Today, we'll be discussing our bye week episode. So, not much on field stuff to discuss, but how did the team do in this last quarter of the season? Because we have a really early bye. Adam, let's talk Seahawks.
Yeah, let's talk bye week. Well, I honestly think that this is one of the few times when an early bye week kind of works out in the Seahawks' favor. Um, I mean, obviously we've been dealing with injuries. Hasn't really affected the play on the field. I think if you go back and kind of take a look, I know PFF had a few grades, but the Seahawks O line, especially looking as depleted as it has looked for the first 4 weeks of the season, has played incredibly well. So kudos to our O line coaches and the offensive coordinator. Of course, Shane Waldron's done a great job of just scheming up since week one, making this O line look pretty darn good, especially considering that last week we played with the last half of the game with none of our starting O line in the positions where they started the game in. So, yeah, I mean, you look at the schedule and you see a week 5 bye week, you're not super excited about it, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to argue that this could have come at a better time for the Seahawks. So,
I completely agree. And you did mention that the coaching staff did a great job. We'll go into how well the coaching staff has done a little bit later. But yeah, quick note. So somebody came out to me. They were like, hey, why do you hate Shane Waldron? Because basically everything I say is a negative on Shane Waldron. And I'm going to say I don't hate Shane Waldron. The thing about Shane Waldron is I think he has a great offensive mind, and it frustrates me when I don't see that on the field when it comes to play calling and situational awareness. So for me, I'm more the coach who hasn't given up on you because I'm still yelling at you. That's where I'm at with Shane Waldron. When we have a mediocre offensive play calling performance and I don't say something, that's when I hate Shane Waldron. So if I'm talking about him and I have things to nitpick, because I mean, we put up 37 points 2 weeks in a row.
yeah,
And I still had things that I was like, oh, you need to work on this. We need to tweak this. We need to get this to be a little more efficient. That's me wanting Shane Waldron to be better. So just putting that out there. I think he's got a great mind. I want him to be a better coordinator and improve every week.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I mean, we bag on him a lot, but I mean, I think that's something that we've done. I mean, even before we were doing this podcast. I mean, if you were a fly on the wall for some of the conversations me and Robbie had before we started this, I mean, Daryl Bethel, his name came up a lot in conversation. So, yeah, look. I mean, I don't think either of us think that Shane Waldron hasn't done a good job getting. I mean, we just said it. He's done a great job getting this team to where it's at right now. Uh, and yeah, it's moments like in week one when we decided not to run the ball in the second half. I mean, we know that he knows that's what you want to do and to keep pace with the team, and it didn't happen. So it's those kind of things that frustrate us. It's not his play calling week by week because or I shouldn't say that. It's not the scheme that he's put together, because when everything's clicking for this offense, it looks great, and Shane Waldron looks great, and that's his. I mean, this is definitely his offense. This offense does not look like the offense the Seahawks were running, 2, 3, 4 years ago. So yeah, I mean, the only person we can say that's on is Shane Waldron. So and I love it. This the Seahawks are exciting to watch right now. So
Oh, for sure. You have to love offensive explosions. And then if this defense picks up, oh, yeah. No, this could be awesome. Right?
Yep.
That's what we've learned in the first part of the season. So a lot of the players, the coaches, they went out, they had a little bit of R&R, a bit of relaxation time, right? Go heal up from some injuries.
Yep.
Adam, what did you do on your bye week?
I also healed up from some injuries that I caused myself. No, this bye week has been just family time, man. I've got most of my family in town right now. Where this is the time of year when we decided to do our family reunion, because here in Albuquerque they've got what's called Balloon Fiesta, It's a huge thing down here. It's all hot air balloons. So like the sky is littered with them for most of the day. You can look up. There's hundreds of them floating up there at some time. It's an international thing. We get teams from like Germany and Australia, and there's races and stuff. I don't. I'm not super into it. I look and there's balloons up there. But the kids love it. We've got a lot of kids in my family, so we've got about 30 people here right now that I share genes with. They're all here for that. So I've been getting a lot of sleep because there's a lot of younger kids, and you know what that's like. Children like to wake up as soon as the sun's up. They apparently are born with a internal clock that is set with the times of the sun rising and setting. And as an older person, I've gotten used to sleeping until I don't want to sleep anymore. But apparently that's not in the cards for this week. So, but yeah, no, it's been good, man.
Yeah, you mean there's an evolutionary circadian rhythm that every human is born with? Something like that?
I don't know that I was born with that. I'm pretty sure that I'm one of the few that never got it, because if I talk to my parents, they'll tell me that they'll tell you that I never slept at night when I was a kid, and I still don't do it. So I've been a night owl forever. So apparently I didn't get the circadian rhythm thing. I didn't have that gene, but apparently every other child in this family has it. So
yeah. Well, obviously I don't sleep at night either. We're currently live streaming this at 4:00 in the morning my time. So
yeah, so it's convenient.
yeah, for me, my bye week was busy. We're not quite that relaxing. I'm currently in the process of trying to sell my house so we can move a little farther west. Actually, there's other reasons why we're moving, but I like to tell myself it so I'm closer to the Seahawks fan base. A lot of home projects, a lot of honey-do list sort of stuff. All that comes with selling a house, including anxiety because people you don't know are walking around your house when you're not in it. So
well, that sounds fun.
That was my week and a half.
What have the Seahawks done on their bye week?
Hopefully got healthy, right? We know that injuries really took a toll on the team in that first 4 or 5 weeks of the season. So hopefully they're good. We really only had one bad section of football in these first 4 weeks, and that was the second half of week 1.
Right.
So
not even the full game.
Yeah, I think there are definitely some positive takeaways to take from the first quarter, I guess, of the season. The first one I'm going to spotlight, and I know you have a few things to talk about too, is the way that this defense has come together after being pretty much a handicap for the team last year.
Not pretty much. It was a handicap for the team last year, and it looked like it might be again this year. I mean, you mentioned that people are, why do we hate Shane Waldron? I think we've bagged more on the defense over the last year podcast than we have on the offense, because the offense, at least for the most part, over the last couple of years, has done their job and put points on the board. The defense hasn't done their job so much with keeping other teams from putting points on the board, and that's been the big thing. That's been the Seahawks' big bugaboo. I think most of the losses we experienced last year were on the defense. And it looked like it might be the same thing this year, obviously, with, again, even though, yes, the offense kind of stalled second half of week 1, the defense was gassed. I mean, they couldn't get off the field on third downs. And, you especially talk about not really being a huge fan of the 3-4 scheme. And I think that was kind of met out with the way that scheme looked on the field, especially last year, and looked like it was going to be a continuing theme this year. But yeah, they've definitely shown improvement. We can just get into one of the points I was going to bring up, and that's the Seahawks are leading the league. We're obviously, the bye week kind of skews these numbers, but through the first 4 weeks, the Seahawks were leading the league in a lot of categories. We had the league leader in tackles, Bobby Wagner, who's on pace for a record year. I think I can't remember what you said, but it was something around 200 and something plus tackles is what he's currently on pace for. I don't think that, but
yeah, I don't think that's sustainable. But yeah, some ridiculous amount of tackles.
Yeah, and he's looked. Bobby, it looks like he's having a renaissance here. He obviously loves being back in Seattle. He looks amazing on the field. He is playing like he played early in his career. You can definitely see he's lost a little bit of a step as far as the speed goes. But the instincts he has now as a veteran making up for that. The other thing that we saw, and this was actually brought, or I got the notification on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it.
Twitter.
Elon Musk. It's always going to be Twitter. It should still be Twitter, Elon. was from Jordan. I forgot his name. Brendan Jordan. Sorry, Brendan Jordan, who is the Seahawks pass rush specialist coach, actually tweeted out a Pro Football Focus stat. Through the first 4 weeks, the Seahawks were leading the league in quarterback pressures. We had 98 pressures over the first 4 weeks. Now, a lot of that came in those last 2 games against the Panthers and the Giants. I think 70 out of the 98 pressures came in those 2 games combined. But I don't think anybody expected the Seahawks to be at the top of that list. The other 2 teams at the top of that list were expected to be there, and that was the 49ers, who were 1 behind us with 97, and the Cowboys, who were at 95. So I was shocked seeing that because I did not expect that we were. I mean, it definitely, especially when you look at week 4, we were definitely putting pressure on Daniel Jones, but I didn't think we'd been putting that much pressure on the quarterbacks, and I was way off base. So kudos to this defense for exceeding my expectations. And I think a lot of that has to do with not just scheme, but the players on the field. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've got talent everywhere.
Yeah, those guys definitely stepped up. So it was 72 over week 3 and 4 because
Okay.
they had 36 in each one of those weeks, which is just a crazy number if you think about it.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones and Andy Dalton were just under duress the entire game.
Well, you
So
think about it, we
kudos
were
to
on
the defense.
what was it, like 50? We had like 50 something plays on defense, 50 something between or each week. So that means more than 60% of our defensive snaps we were putting pressure on the quarterback. That is nuts.
Yeah, that's fantastic, is what that is. As a defensive guy, that just makes me happy inside. So we were first in the NFL over the first 4 weeks in pressures, like you just brought that up. There's another stat that makes my heart smile because last year the Seahawks were one of the bottom dwellers in the NFL when it came to run defense. Well, through the first 4 weeks, the Seahawks were first in the NFL, and this is according to ESPN statistics, in yards per carry allowed at 3.18 yards per carry per rush. So, I mean, that's awesome for a team who were basically turnstiles in the run game, just missing tackles all over the place last year. I want to say they were 30th in run defense last year. So the defense stepping up huge first 4 weeks, and now we're going to come back healthier. The world is our oyster.
Yeah, look, I in the run defense, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that's definitely something to talk about. I mean, we know going back to last year how poor that was, and I think we expected it to be the same way this year. For the first week, it definitely looked like numbers didn't meet this out, but to the eye test, or at least for me, when I saw the game week 1, I was like, we still can't stop the run. You go back and look at the numbers, and no, we did a great job. Kyron Williams has been blowing up the league. I mean, the man's been fantastic. He was at like 2.9 yards a carry playing the Seahawks. And although you could say that we haven't really faced a premier running back yet this season, that defensive line, Jaron Reed especially, has been amazing. We've talked about this on the podcast, but it's not just Jaron Reed. I mean, the other guys as well. Mario Williams has looked. Mario Williams, Edwards, good.
Edwards.
So,
yeah.
Thank you, Mario Edwards. Mario Williams was a good guy too, but Mario Edwards looked really good in the Seahawks uniform. The rest of those guys, Boya Mafe has taken strides. But I do want to talk about another guy who's been getting kind of plugged in there, that defense, spelling Jaron Reed when he needs to come off the field, which hasn't been very often, and that's Cameron Young. For a rookie, and a big-bodied rookie who's being asked to play nose tackle, he's probably the only true nose tackle we've got on this team right now. If you want to look at just body style, he's looked great. I mean, Jaron Reed's been a star, but if you just go back and look at the raw numbers, and it's obviously a smaller sample size with Cameron Young, he's been playing really, really well. I mean, he is not allowing anybody to move him off that ball. Big dude, and he plays with every pound of that 304-pound frame. So,
yeah, he's also a guy who plays to the whistle, right? Always effort on the play. He does the little things. He does what a nose tackle is supposed to do, right? He absorbs 2 blockers so that we can get, a stunting defensive end to come through and put pressure on the quarterback or free up a linebacker to make a play behind the line in the run game. He's doing the work that needs to be done. And as a rookie, that's amazing, especially a 4th round pick.
Right.
But since you brought up Cameron Young, a rookie, let's just take a look at our rookie class. And let's go backwards, because I think we'll have a little more to talk about when we get to the first rounders. So
yeah, well, yeah, fair enough.
We have a fair amount of rookies who are on our team who were picked up due to injury. We're not going to talk about all these guys. First, let's just talk about the guys who made the 53 or were draft picks. And then if we need to spotlight somebody later, we can. Like, for instance, his name literally just jumped out of my head. I forget what it is, but the rookie tight end that we picked up when Will Dissly got hurt, kind of as insurance.
Man. Yeah, I don't
off of somebody's practice squad. This guy's out there making tackles in special teams. He is high effort guy. I think he wears number 38. Guys like that. I still can't get behind the numbers change. I go back to the way it was, please. This isn't college. Yeah, who'd have thought we'd have picked somebody up off somebody else's practice squad as an injury insurance policy for one of our guys, and he's actually out there contributing and making tackles and contributing where he needs to.
Well, if you know anything about John Schneider, you should expect it, because that man has an eye for picking up people off other people's practice squads. He's proven it year in, year out. But if we're going to talk about guys that made the initial 53-man roster, the first guy I want to talk about is my boy Jake Bobo.
Yeah, first on my list too.
Okay, good, because we haven't seen a ton from him. Obviously, he made that great touchdown in week 2. Haven't really seen a ton from him in a stat column. He's out there making plays. That man is a beast in the run game. He pancakes dudes. He looks like a blocking inline tight end when he's out there in front of a running back making space. I'd love to see him get more involved. Obviously, it's we're going to be coming off this bye week. We're going to get a couple guys back healthy, but I hope we're going to get to see still more Bobo coming into week 6. But yeah, Jake Bobo has been just a revelation. I mean, I loved him obviously in the draft. I was pounding the table for the Seahawks to maybe take him in the 7th round. You didn't think he was going to get drafted. You were right. Love the fact that they were able to pick him up as an undrafted rookie free agent. And I called it day one that he was going to make this team. And I'm so happy I was right, because I'm not usually. So.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. Jake Bobo has, I want to say it's like an 89.8 PFF run blocking grade. And that's one of the top, if not the top wide receiver run blocking grade in the NFL right now. That's how you stick on a team he could be on the Seahawks for the next 15 years just to be a run blocking wide receiver. And it's crazy to think that. I mean, he's also has skills in the receiving game.
He's a big dude, 6'5". I think he's got like a 6.5 foot wingspan. He's a big dude.
Yeah. My note that I put for him was that one right there about one of the highest run blocking skills in the NFL. But also I just put killing it. Like, that's it. He's just,
because he is
just taking advantage of every opportunity. And that right there epitomizes the Seahawks roster. Is we want guys who will take advantage of any opportunity that they're given. Another guy who took advantage of an opportunity, undrafted free agent. This is somebody who you probably forgot was even on the team. And that's long snapper Chris Stoll. Right,
I did forget.
Yeah, been out there for 50 plus snaps this year, right? No errant long snaps. Announcers don't call his name. That means the long snapper's doing his job. So kudos to Chris Stoll making the team, doing his job. The issues in the kicking game are not on him.
Yeah, we could talk about Jason Myers.
I'm just going to say this one thing. Second highest paid kicker in the NFL, currently the second lowest field goal percentage in the NFL. So
that's gonna turn around. I mean, I think if you were a betting man, and I am, I would have put money on him having a down year, because he always has a down year in odd years. It's just a thing. I don't know what it is. Maybe he prop bets himself and bets his whole salary on him having a down year. I don't know what it is, But yeah, let's not talk. Oh, actually, I do want to make this one point. I feel like long snappers are the new kickers in the NFL because about 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't care who a kicker was because we had Stephen Hauschka. I just figured, oh, kickers are just automatic, doesn't matter. I was obviously proven wrong when we let Stephen Hauschka go, and we lived in those wilderness years of the Sebastian Janikowski and whatever the guy's name we signed after he was released by the Vikings. I don't know why we signed him. Thank you. Blair Walsh, who I don't know why we signed him. We saw how bad he was, missing a 27-yard gimme that let us win a playoff game. But anyway, I digress. But long snappers. I always felt that they were a dime a dozen. I've seen bad ones, so I know I'm wrong about that. I love the fact that we got this rookie to come in and not miss a beat for our special teams. So, Chris Stahl, I will make a real effort not to forget your name ever again.
There you go. That's awesome. Now, moving on to our draft picks. 7th round running back, Kenny McIntosh. Listen, he's on injured reserve, right? We don't know if he's going to impact the season or not. In fact, I forgot to look it up. I'm pretty sure he will be eligible to return because he made the initial 53 and then they put him on injured reserve. But yeah, I mean, he's got loads of potential as a third down back. But the way that our running backs are working right now, they're healthy, they're effective. DJ Dallas looks really good in that third down back role. Not to mention the fact that Charbonnet can block and be a receiver out of the backfield. Let McIntosh get healthy, right? Take time getting him back. And if he doesn't make it back this season, it's almost like a redshirt year. Let him learn that offense so he can come in next year.
I just Googled it. He is eligible to come back actually this week if they wish, if he's ready to go. I haven't seen any practice report with his name on it. I don't know if that's, well, they haven't obviously taken him off IR, so he wouldn't be on a practice report. But they haven't done it yet. They have the option to if they would like to. So we could see him at some point this year. Look, I'm excited. I mean, just go back and watch tape of this kid in college, and he is really good in space. He's a great catcher out of the backfield. That's obviously what he's kind of known for. I think he only had like 900 rush yards in college, which isn't a ton for a college running back. But
0 drops in the receiving game.
Yeah. I mean, so we know he's got sure hands. I'll tell you what. There's one thing I'd really love to see if he does make it off fire. I'd love to see us dial up a couple of screenplays to Kenny McIntosh just to see if maybe he could be the thing that gets the Seahawks right when it comes to that, because we have yet to see a successful screen in the Shane Waldron era, and maybe Kenny McIntosh is the key. But yeah, we haven't seen anything from him yet. But it's nice to know we've got that depth and somebody waiting in the wings coming up that is a talented dude. This is a guy that I don't think anybody saw falling to the 7th round. Which is why I think the Seahawks grabbed him. I mean, it was obviously a really big surprise taking another running back in this draft after taking Charbonnet. But it's because the talent was there, and you can't pass up a guy like that when there's a chance. So hopefully we get to see him.
Yeah, at that point, you just take best player available.
Yeah.
So I actually messaged Adam this at some point during this year, and that was a Seahawks screen on third down is a guaranteed appearance for Michael Dixon. It just is. I mean, they need to figure it out.
It has been for sure.
All right. So going into our 6th round, we drafted a 6th round rookie, Jarek Reed, the second. I like this guy. Like, I had no clue who he was when we drafted him. If you go back and watch our draft coverage, we were one of the few people who still were live in the 6th round. And we both had to look him up. I had like 4 different tabs trying to find a good scouting report on him, but I like him. Big effort guy. He contributes on special teams every single play. He's had a chance when we've been up big that they were able to get him in on defense. He's had a handful of defensive snaps, and he looks good. He looks like he's learning that defense and looking to be effective. This is somebody I'm excited for primarily as a special teamer, but it looks like he can get it done on defense as well.
Yeah, they like him. I mean, obviously there's the family connection with KJ Wright. We kind of talked about it. I kind of dropped the ball on that. I mean, if anybody was going to scout Jarek Reed, it should have been me. I live in Albuquerque. He attended the University of New Mexico just up the street. I actually saw him play once this year, and I still had no idea who he was. So, but Yeah, you look, the Seahawks like him. This is a guy who you didn't get a ton of play time in the preseason. He wasn't out there for a lot of snaps, and you kind of wondered why maybe they didn't see anything during practice or rookie minicamp. But it ends up no, the reason he wasn't out there a ton is because they knew he was going to make the roster. So they obviously like him, and I think they have a plan for him. We haven't seen his name called on special teams, but he's been out there for it. I mean, he's a gunner on special teams. He hasn't made a big impact tackle, but I think there's other guys that just have a little bit more speed that are getting there first. But I'm gonna make. I think I'll have to make a concerted effort, kind of watch some of his plays and see is he staying in his lane when it comes to that, because he's sticking with this team. There's no question that he's going to be on this team for the rest of the year, and I think they have a plan for him. I just don't know if they have found a way to implement him yet, because we're just so deep in that defensive backfield.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. He can sit and learn and come out and make his mark. Fifth round, our second fifth round pick, since we're going backwards, was the center Olusegun Oluwatimi, who was one of the guys I was championing from the start of the pre-draft process straight through. He's somebody I think has loads of potential and can come in and make an impact. I think we saw that in the Giants game when we had all those injuries and Evans had to move over to guard. And then Oluwatimi came in to be the center, and he actually had an 80.9 pass block grade by PFF against the Giants. So that's awesome for a rookie. I mean, that is a stout interior defensive line. It's probably one of the best defensive lines, or at least interior defensive lines, that the Seahawks are going to face all year. And he had an 80.9 pass block grade against them. He needs some more time. He needs a little more time to get out there and kind of get his feet wet, show us what he can do. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of PFF grades, but the pass block grade in this case was really good. I wanted to spotlight it.
Sorry for those of you who don't know, I have a dog, and she's supposed to be sleeping, but decided to wake up and let me know that she was here. Yeah, look, I know you. I mean, I think you had a third round grade on this guy, and I think you weren't. That wasn't a stretch. Most people had an early round grade on this guy. I think the thing that impressed me most about him coming in the Giants game is when we ended up switching quarterbacks for a few plays there towards the end, and Drew Lock kind of came in. No difference. I mean, anybody who's ever played that position will tell you there's a connection between quarterback and different cadence, different rhythms, and different hand placement when they come up to take the ball from under center. So the fact that he was just perfect at it, I thought that was great. I mean, I'm excited for this guy's future. He's definitely going to be part of this team going forward. Nothing against Evan Brown, who's been great for us, but I still think Oluwatimi is the center of the future for the Seahawks.
I still think there's a chance he is starting by the end of the year. Our other fifth round pick was defensive end Mike Morris, and he's on injured reserve. In fact, he has already had shoulder surgery, I believe.
Yeah.
And they said it was the type of surgery that he's pretty much done for the rest of this year. But he looked good before he got hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think in the first game he had 3 pressures in that first game. Big man's a beast. I mean, he's a manimal. This is a guy that played defensive tackle in college. They had him defensive end in college. They had him gain a little bit of weight because they wanted to move him into the interior. Obviously, he was still technically designated as a defensive end because we have a 3-4 front. But this is a guy who put on, I think, 20, 30 pounds during that Seahawks camp. I mean, it's tough to pack on that kind of weight, especially when you're already a big dude. And he looked great. Didn't look like he had lost a step after gaining that kind of weight. I'm super excited to see what this guy's going to do in his second year. I hope he heals up quick. But this is a guy that I liked in the draft process. I love that the Seahawks were able to get him, especially in the 5th round, because this is another guy that had an earlier round draft grade. So, yeah, stoked to see what happens with him next year. Sorry, we're not going to get to see more of him this year for sure.
The second of our 4th round picks was an individual that you already mentioned, and that's defensive tackle, nose tackle there, Cameron Young. He's getting time at nose. He looks good in that nose position. He's in there to spell Jaron Reed. And in that role, he's racked up 2 pressures, which he's not a rush the quarterback guy, but he's getting in there, right? Claps in the pocket, getting those pressures. He has 4 tackles, 4 defensive stops. For a backup nose tackle after 4 games, I'm happy with those stats, and I'm happy with the way he looks on the field.
Yeah, like I said, I think, I mean, if you just go back and look at the numbers on a snap per snap basis, he's been just as good, if not better, than Jarran Reed has. Obviously, Jarran Reed's out there a lot more than him, so he's gonna, there's gonna be a little bit of attrition there. He's gonna slow down as the game goes on, and Jarran Reed's much older, yeah, I think this guy's another guy that has a bright look. The Seahawks know how to draft. I think there was definitely some questions over a couple of years where it looked like we had some weaker drafts. A lot of that was just injury stuff. We just couldn't get guys healthy, whether it be Rashad Penny, LJ Collier. I mean, the list goes on and on. We've had some bad luck with some drafts. But these last 2 years have proven that the Seahawks still know how to draft. John Schneider and Pete Carroll know what they're doing when scouting players. So, yeah, I just think this is another later round gem for them. I see this guy having a bigger role as the season goes on, because I know we're going to want to spell Jarran Reed more and more as the season wears on. And I have no issues with that. As much as I love Jarran Reed and he's been a beast out there, and I don't want to see him off the field ever, I'm okay when he does come off.
All right. Our other 4th round pick has had a bit more playing time than you or I or anybody else thought he was going to have at this point in the season. And that's
probably wanted.
Yeah, that's guard Anthony Bradford. Listen, he was forced into action because of injuries. We've seen our offensive line just be decimated, starting with the tackles, and then Phil Haynes and Lewis have both had injuries. So our stalwart offensive lineman is our center. Everybody else has missed time.
Yeah.
So going his scouting report, at least what I saw when I scouted him, was dominant run blocker, not somebody you want to rely on in the pass game. What he's shown in the NFL is the exact opposite. He could use some work in the run game. I think that's scheme a little bit because you don't really see it when you isolate him, but he has looked great in the pass game, especially for a guy who that was the negative against him was his pass protection. His pass pro looks good.
Yeah, I think, and we said it several times at the beginning of the season, the interior of our offensive line is where we had questions. Can it hold up under pressure? Is that going to be our Achilles heel on offense? Or is Geno Smith going to be running for his life because defensive tackles are just going to be coming at him all day? And it ends up being no. That's been our strength. We're very deep there. Everybody that's been able to come in and step in, whether it be Evan Brown switching from center to guard, whether Oluwatimi coming in or Bradford coming in, those guys have held up. Now, not to knock our tackles. I think our tackles are great too, especially considering they're both backups right now. Stone Forsythe has been great. A guy that we, not just because his name's awesome, but a guy that we liked when the Seahawks took him the year before, but also a guy that's just, he continues to grow. I don't know if he's ever going to be a starter, but this guy is going to be a swing tackle for the Seahawks for a long time, I think. But yeah, just that interior offensive line was there. There was some doubts going into the season. I have none now.
Yeah. So week 3, Phil Haynes was out. So Anthony Bradford got the start and he played the entire game. Week 4, Phil Haynes got the start, but played 5 snaps before re-aggravating his injury, and Anthony Bradford played the remainder of the game. So 2 full games, he's allowed 3 pressures and 0 sacks. So for a rookie, those are impressive numbers.
Yeah, they are.
Our second round picks was once again a shock to us, and that was Zach Charbonnet, running back. We liked the player. We just didn't think they needed to take a running back, but I'll eat my words because that was a fantastic pick. He is a tough, hard runner. We've seen that on the field. Go watch him blow up Franklin Jr. in the Panthers game.
Yeah.
I think he needs more touches, but I think he needs more touches without reducing Walker's load.
Yeah, you can't. You can't take it. Yeah, because you can't. You can't take Walker. You can't be giving Walker less than 15, 17 carries a game because he is just explosive and he's a big play waiting to happen. Also, the man, is just dynamite at the goal line. I think we expected when we got in close that we'd see more Charbonnet, but Kenneth Walker's vision makes him elite in the red zone. He will find a hole. He will, if the end zone is near him, he's getting there. So it's really tough to be taking runs away from him. I think part of that is as this defense continues to grow and we get fewer and fewer snaps where they're out there, not being able to get off the field on third down, we'll see more offense. It's worth noting that Charbonnet has gotten more touches every game that the season has gone on. So I expect to see him continue to grow in this offense. I expect to see him out there more. I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a 2 and 3 touchdown game, because I think eventually he's going to be the hot hand. They're going to want to just pound the rock on people when they're ahead in the fourth quarter. So I expect to see more of him as the season goes on, and I think that's a great thing for the Seahawks.
Yeah, right now he's averaging 5 yards per rush, and he's averaging that behind a patchwork offensive line chock full of backups and undrafted free agents, if you want to put it that way.
It's also worth noting we talked about his touches increasing game to game. His yards per carry have increased game per game. I think he had 3 point something first game, 4 point something next game, 5 the 2 weeks ago, and it was 6.2 this last week. So the man's getting stronger as the season goes on, which is what you want to see from your big stout running back. So he's also much more elusive than I thought. You watch him get free out of the backfield. He's got soft hands. That guy can make people miss in space. And when you're as big as he is, that's impressive.
Yeah, I looked at his size. I looked at the way that he ran with power and kind of a little bit of that angry nastiness in college. I said, great, this is going to be our new goal line back. I don't play fantasy anymore, but this was definitely a recipe for that old Jerome Bettis draft selection back in the day, when he wasn't going to get you yards, but you can almost guarantee 1 to 2 touchdowns a game from him. That has not been the case. He has yet to score a touchdown.
It's coming. It's
coming. And that's not fantasy advice. Don't take advice from me. Even though I did win like 80% of the leagues I played in. I don't.
No, you should definitely take fantasy advice from Rob, but he doesn't give it out for free is the problem.
All right. So our first second round pick was once again kind of a surprise to us, mainly because I didn't do a ton of homework on Derek Hall. So that's defensive end Derek Hall, who's playing outside linebacker for the Seahawks. Listen, slow start. He has played in every game. He has 7 pressures, which isn't bad, and 3 tackles. He's playing about 30% of the snaps. He's a rotational piece in a really deep edge rusher group. So this is a real good spot for him to learn. It is not a place for people to put extra scrutiny on him, because he's not in that position. He's not a starter. He is being effective when he's called to be on the field. So just let him work. I mean, 7 pressures in 4 games, playing 30% of the snaps. That's not bad.
That's pretty good. Look, I mean, I'm right there with you. It was a surprise pick for me, but it was a surprise pick for me because I didn't think he was a need that early in the draft for the Seahawks. I mean, we already had a pretty deep rotational pass rush. I mean, obviously some guys have gone, Alton Robinson being one of them, but we had a lot of guys already coming off the edge. So it didn't look like that was a priority for the Seahawks, but they took him. I think they obviously knew what they were going to be doing later in the season. And again, as the season wears on, you're going to want to give your starters fewer snaps and your backups more snaps to keep them fresh. So I think we'll see more of Derek Hall as the season goes on. The man's lightning in a bottle. He's quick first step dude off the edge. He will get home one of these days. Just like Zach Charbonnet in touchdowns, we're going to see sacks from Derek Hall at some point this season. But yeah, I mean, right now he's not out in the field a ton, and for good reason. When you've got Nwosu and Boye Mafe playing as well as they're playing, and Darrell Taylor is just a sack monster. He likes getting in that backfield. It's tough to see him out there a ton, but it'll happen. Another guy that I'm not worried about it. Yes, he was a high draft pick, and yeah, maybe you think, oh, well, he's just not getting enough playtime. We've got a deep pass rush rotation, so it's coming. It's going to happen.
It is coming, and if you go watch some of the All-22 tape and isolate him specifically, you'll see flashes of why the team had him with a first-round grade. But speaking of first-rounders, we had 2 of them.
We did.
And those 2 players are on the 53. They're contributing. The first one I want to talk about is our second first round pick, and that was wide receiver Jaxon Smith-Njigba. Listen, there's a lot of buzz out there in the media, in the podcast world, in the sports opinion content creation world that, oh, Smith-Njigba's a bust. See, that's why he wasn't my first. Well, that comes from a lot of people who don't watch Seahawks games. They're looking at stat lines. This is not the time to panic. He has elite skills, elite traits that he showed through the scouting process, and that doesn't go away. Somebody who I greatly respect, there are a couple podcasts that I have big respect for, and one of them is the Locked On Seahawks podcast, hosted by Corbin Smith, and I actually disagree with him on his take with Smith-Njigba. He thinks we need to be dialing up more intermediate, deep crossers. That's what he did at Ohio State. That's what he's going to be comfortable with. He's not a really fast guy. He's not going to take the top off of defense. He ran a 4.48 40. Ohio State is notorious for having slightly faster 40s than you think guys are going to have. Let's just say maybe that's a 39.8 yard dash, but he's a 4.5 guy, and especially with pads on, he's probably closer to that 4.6. He's not going to take the top off. Where he excels is the fact that he has some elite, and we're talking top 1% type of short area quickness, 3-cone, his shuttle drills, things like that. He can move in space. So what we need to do, dial up short to intermediate routes that require him to drop his hips and change direction. That will allow him to create separation utilizing that short area quickness. That's what I think we need to do with him. Obviously, we'll see what Shane Waldron does with him moving forward. I also say he's suffering from a lack of opportunities, kind of to get in rhythm. Seahawks are top 5 in usage of 12 and 13 personnel. Over the past 4 weeks, the Seahawks used 12 personnel. That's 2 tight ends on the field, 1 running back, 28.1% of the time. And they've used 13 personnel 9.4% of the time. Your slot receiver is not on the field when you have 2 or more tight ends. He just hasn't had a chance to get in rhythm. And they're 23rd in the NFL in usage of 11 personnel. So give it time. We're working with backup offensive linemen. Shane Waldron is correctly dialing up packages that help those offensive linemen. So sorry, but Smith-Njigba is suffering from needing to help out those offensive linemen. He will get his touches. He will get opportunities. Right now, I'm saying do not panic. We are 4 games in. He's a rookie. He has the best guy to learn from in Tyler Lockett on the team. This guy will get it done.
Yeah, I no doubt. I think I was stoked. You were stoked with the selection of Jaxon Smith-Njigba. We're like, hey, perfect. This is a perfect situation where need and player meet in the draft. Slot receiver was a big need for the Seahawks. They got one. They're going to use it. Pete Carroll doesn't spend a first-round draft pick on somebody just so he, can be a decoy the entire season. There's 13 games left. We got plenty of time to see this guy out on the field. Go back and watch. He's always running routes when he's out there. He'll get his touches. You've got to remember that we still have 2 elite outside receivers. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. They're going to get their touches too. We've got Kenneth Walker in the backfield. There's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense. There's going to be a game where Jaxon Smith-Njigba goes off this year. I guarantee you he's going to have 1 or more games this year where he is the focus of the offense because that's just where the ball's going to go naturally in the flow of the game. So, hold your breath, whatever you need to do, calm down, Seahawks fans and talking heads. Jaxon Smith-Njigba, the talent's there. It's obvious. Just watching him play on the field, the man can still move. He'll get open. The ball just hasn't been there for him. It's coming.
I'll go one step further and make a prediction. And bookmark this wherever you're listening. If you're in the audio world, bookmark it in the audio world. If you're watching us on YouTube through our live stream recording of this episode, bookmark it and come back and comment. I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba will have at least two touchdown games this season. And one of those games, he'll have over 8 receptions. So he will be one of those effective wide receivers. We just need to give it time to develop.
Yeah,
but
I like it.
Speaking of effectiveness, our first round pick, number 5 overall, cornerback, Devin Witherspoon. He was my number 1 corner for a reason. I mean, physical, tenacious, right? And he's showing it on the field, right? Utilization, he needs to be used how we got word they were going to use him in preseason. He needs to be used as an outside corner when we're in like base personnel, even though we don't really use that a lot. Our base personnel is more nickel, but with a third safety instead of a corner. He needs to be outside there when they bring in that small nickel package, when that's a corner in the slot, he needs to be playing in the slot. Use Trey Brown, use Mike Jackson over on that other end.
Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant. Yeah, look, this is the highest draft pick the Seahawks have ever used on a cornerback. Not just in the Pete Carroll era, ever. Okay? And especially the Pete Carroll era, I didn't think that was ever going to happen. I was shocked when they used the 5th round pick on a quarterback because we've had such great success with later round picks. Just go back and look at Tariq Woolen 1 year before. I understand now why they took this guy at number 5 overall. He has had last week. He had a dominant performance on defense. Interception return for touchdown, 2 sacks from your cornerback, 2 sacks from your slot cornerback. Also, and in the run game, that man he had 3 stops behind the line. The man's a beast. He's an absolute beast. He plays with a reckless abandon that you love to see. He plays like a linebacker when he's defending in the run game, and he plays. I mean, just honestly, it reminds me of like a young Marcus Trufant, where he's just flying all over the field, and you'll never see him coming, but he's going to be around the ball. Yeah, I just hats off to the Seahawks for this draft pick, because this man is going to have a long and storied career here in Seattle. And I can't say enough about it. Like, just go back and watch the Giants game. If there was any doubt that this guy deserved to be a top 5 pick in the NFL, that should all be laid to rest. He should be the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year right now, and he's not because he resides in the Northwest, but he should be. No defensive rookie has had a game like he had against the Giants. None. I mean, I don't know. There aren't words. I'm still shocked at how good this guy looks on the field. And he has now had 3 games back to back where he has been out there for every single defensive snap.
Durable.
That's an Iron Man.
And it's funny I say that because he did miss the first game and most of the preseason with an injury, but he's tough and he's showing it. So here are his stats over 3 games. He has 4 pressures, 2 sacks, 18 tackles, an interception, which was returned for a touchdown, and 3 pass breakups. I mean,
that's some guy's season.
Those are some guy's seasons. Now, Jalen Carter will probably be that front runner and probably win Defensive Rookie of the Year, but that's just due to East Coast media. So if you've listened to us long enough, you know our feelings on East Coast bias.
Mm-hmm.
So, Adam, you're coming out of the bye week. You have a little input into the Seahawks. What are you going to do? What do the Seahawks need to do coming out of this bye week to maintain the success that we saw going into it?
I know you're going to hate me for saying this. We need to be more aggressive on offense. kind of seems like a silly thing to say, considering we had 2 back-to-back games with 37 points, and then another game where we scored 28, and we really weren't on the field that long. Again, we were on the field. The offense was on the field for 24 minutes in the Giants game. Not that, I mean, we didn't, that's less than half the game. So, but I want to see them getting shots to DK on the outside. I want to see more to Tyler Lockett down the field. I want to open it up for a guy like Jaxon Smith-Njigba in the middle of the field. I want to see more plays on offense. So I want that offense to be out there. I want to see more passes in that intermediate area to guys like Jaxon Smith-Njigba and our tight ends. And I want to see more 2 and 3 back sets, because those things are exciting. Just watching those guys. I mean, I'm not a huge fan of trick plays, but when we create motion in the backfield pre-snap, it equals success. And we've got 3 guys, and I'm putting DJ Dallas in there with this, who all can make plays out of that backfield. I want to see this offense do what I know it can do, and that's consistently put up 30 and 40-point games. We're going to be playing a lot of high-powered offenses as we go through the rest of this year. We've got one coming up with the Bengals next week. We know what they can do. Just go back and watch last week's game. We're going to need to keep pace with these kind of teams, and the way to do that is to continue to dial it up on offense, keep that pressure on. I don't ever want to see us take our foot off the gas over the next several weeks. I want to see us keep the pressure on. Let's put up points in bunches. Let's be aggressive when we're in the red zone. Let's not settle for field goals. Not because I don't trust Jason Myers. I don't. But because we're going to need to put up more points playing these high-powered offenses. So Shane Waldron, you've shown me that you can be consistent over the last 3 weeks with the offense and creating plays. Now let's dial it up. Let's take the training wheels off. Let's just blow teams out, because we can do it. This offense has the weapons. We have the quarterback. Let's do it.
All right. Oh, don't forget, you like motion in the backfield. One of the better guys with motion is going to come back to this team in 2 weeks, and that's D. Eskridge, another guy who you can run a little bit of jet sweep, motion kind of stuff out of that out of the slot through the backfield. So something to watch out for. A lot of people forget that he's still around, but his suspension will be up in 2 weeks. Coming out of this bye week, weapons. Yes. Coming out of this bye week, there's a few things that I would do. The first thing, I would be focusing on third down. Right now, both sides of the ball need work. Our offense is converting only 28.9% of their first downs, or excuse me, of their third downs. That is not a winning recipe. You can't sustain success if you can't continue with a fresh set of downs when you meet third down. We need to get that higher. Let's see that over 50%. And then speaking of 50%, our defense has been allowing 52.4% of third down conversions against them. Something else that needs to clean up. A lot of this has to do with some of those soft zones we're playing in coverage. And so we're facing a lot of third and short. So yeah, we're going to stop your ball carrier with less than 3 yards. That's what our average is. But if it's 3rd and 2, that's still a first down. So they need to work schematically in order to contain some of these teams and keep all of those third down issues in check. But here's the key. This is the key to winning it all. And that is, you got to keep that defensive fire burning. Pressure, pressure, pressure. Let's dial it up. They found a winning success formula these past couple weeks. Let's keep it going. You've been listening to the Let's Talk Seahawks podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please give us a subscribe and a like on this video. Feel free to drop us a comment. Let us know how we did. In the audio podcast world, please subscribe. Rate us on whatever platform you're on. But we really appreciate the feedback. Thank you. And as always, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.